function this helps to focus on policies which encourage the advancement of academics at the expense of social building policies like university prime minister. Okay,
So I'll be starting next week. As we all know, we live in a country that put the importance both on academics and on culture building areas. So, but our side of the house are going to prove today why there are more benefits towards the academics areas than the culture building areas. Today, I, as the Prime Minister, will be giving my case, my own arguments. Okay. So first of all, moving on to our characterization is that what do we mean by we would want the advancement of academic rather than culture building areas? This what we mean is that we would want a much more better funding towards the academics areas rather than the culture building areas. As what we can see in the status quo is that government are giving a lot of funding towards the culture building areas. For example, in terms of football, we can see that the government is paying a lot of footballers at a high rate of salary because in culture building areas, they think that people, they think in culture building areas is much more important for them rather than academics. So moving on to our stakeholders is that we have students, we have government who are affected by it, and we have people who work with jobs in academics and culture building areas. So I would like to mention we have a small difference that we would still have small funding towards the culture building areas, but we would focus more on the academics area rather than the cultural building part. So because we believe it has a long-term better benefits rather than the cultural building part. So moving on to my argument is that, first of all, why do we believe this? Why do we believe this is that, like I said just now, we will have a long-term benefit rather than the cultural building part. For example, you have a footballer and you have a professor. Footballers have a short span of time to be a footballer. We would say that above the age of 55, they would need to retire because there would be much more footballers who are healthier, who are stronger, who have much better stamina than them because they are younger. So rather than a professor, you can still be a professor at the age of 60 and be getting money rather than footballers who has a short span of time to be a footballer. Then they will be getting money at that certain age where they do be the footballer. And second of all, they would be improved academics. They would improve the students' achievements in academic terms. Because why? Because if the government do fund towards the academic areas, students they might find in terms of technology, or they might find in terms of books. Then the students have a better resources for them to learn, better resources for them to gain knowledge. So they would be helping the economy by having more successful students, and they would have a better economy because there would be more students who are successful because they have resources for that. So before I continue, do we have any tries? Okay, moving on is that how can it benefit the economy? I will be going back to my point of where the footballers and the professor. Why do we say it can help the economy? This because people will be paying tax in terms of they will be paying tax professors would be paying tax because they would be getting a lot of salary until they retire at an old age. But for the footballers, they have a small span, like I said. It has a short span, like I said, and they would have to pay tax for they would have to pay tax during them being footballers. So with more jobs that require a long term job, then people would be able to pay more salary, and this can help the country. So, and when we do, like I said in my our recognition now, is that we'll be funding a bit towards the culture building, just to encourage people to acknowledge the fact that culture building is important. But we do want to focus more on the academics parts because in our opinion, the academics are much more important in terms of successful in life. Why we say this is because that why do we say it's better in life? Because when you have a better job using your academics or your knowledge, then you might be getting more jobs opportunities because you have knowledge on this. Because we had the resources to get this kind of knowledge to be in that job. So rather than people focusing on social building, when they focus too much on sports, then they would get the salary for a short time, and after that, what are they going to be? So that's my question. And I would like to conclude this debate is that I have given my own case, I have given my own arguments. First of all, my first argument was that it has a long-term benefits rather than cultural building. And second of all, it improve achievements of students in universities or schools. And third of all, it can help the economy in terms of more successful students and in terms of the taxes that I mentioned just now. So for us, then we believe that it's a better for us to focus on academics because it has a long-term benefits rather than focusing on cultural building areas. So with that, I end my speech.
Yes, thank you, Prime Minister. I'm citing in the box. Yeah.
So I'll be starting my speech in a few fantasies that I'll be calling on coming from side of the government, and also pursuing a few layers of case setup and also finding a few points of argumentation as for my speech. Now, let's dive straight to rebuttals. Let's rebut the entire point made earlier by Prime Minister regarding why they will be pursuing and providing more funds for education compared to culture. We tell you that this is not a priority to actually focus on education because it already we see in secondary school, there is already enough initiative, there's enough funding, there's many programs to actually accelerate the development of education in Malaysia. Instead, we think that the main issue of education in Malaysia is the fact that people simply have a lack of motivation to learn. It's not the fact that we already receive they are underfunded. We already have enough textbooks, we already have enough schools. It's not a normal. So it will be like diverting money towards something that is not going to be something that is functioning, something that is not going to bring as much benefits as compared to bringing money to culture, which is something I'll be elaborating more later in my speech. Now, instead, we actually propose a new alternative. Let's divert all that funding and instead provide it towards the sector of culture. Now, for that, let's move into a few definitions and let's challenge what the entire case is about. Now, what is culture building? Culture building itself refers to the idea of developing non-academic fields like funding local musicians or local sports teams in order to allow them to practice. Let's understand. And secondly, what do academic fields look like? It looks like the investment of funds into the education sector, we stated earlier. Now, let's identify what our side will actually look like in this debate. How would us do in our alternative diverting all that money like in the first place. We tell you that it looks like creating new government agencies like My Creative Ventures and expanding existing agencies in order to fund local musicians in a slow and tedious process. This doesn't mean that we completely neglect the entire section of actually the entire sector of anything related to academics, but we still do provide support nonetheless. Now, what is the criteria of receiving funding on our side of the house? So we tell that the criteria to receive funding is that they are underfunded, and this is the majority of the case for the music industry. Now, moving forward, what's the stance coming from side of opposition? We believe that we should instead focus on developing these non-academic industries like the creative sector. Now, moving on to the burden, so to prove to you how completely focusing on things like academic fields is going to lead to a non-policy approach, it's going to lead to the development not being valid, it's going to lead to the creative sector completely collapsing itself due to underfunding. Secondly, we have to prove to you how our alternative brings much more benefits to Malaysia as a whole. Now, moving into the case from our side, in status quo, we have to clarify that a majority of people in the non-academic field and a majority of jobs are underfunded and lacking due to a few reasons. The first reason is because Malaysia has historically directed a majority of its budgets into things like funding infrastructure. For example, programs like the Dasar Ekonomi Baru or post-called the New Economic Policy. It diverted majority of funds towards focusing on things like education. Secondly, we tell the reason is that they are neglected. The fact that majority of the creative sector is completely drowned out by foreign talents which come to Malaysia day by day. Now, what do these academic fields actually do in the first place? Firstly, we tell that it looks like the academic fields looks like the development of things like education as stated earlier. We tell you that they couldn't be inside the scope, they already received enough funding as stated earlier, and also the fact that they are not going to collapse if we just divert less money towards them. Now, what's the importance of why it's so bad to completely focus on academic fields? The importance is that the moment that you completely neglect the creative sector, then they will have no other source of income. They are completely reliant on themselves. As we see in status quo, things like the art industry are not flourishing anymore. Now, moving on to my point of argumentation under the headline of how it will lead to the creative sector being destroyed. The first layer is that the context with the creative sector already struggling due to things like lack of funding and the fact that majority of people simply do not divert their attention to the local industries is going to lead to collapse. The thing that when you lack facilities to train football players, when the artists are not given a platform to express their creativity, it's going to lead to a complete collapse in the creative sector. And this is also the very moment where there is a loss of national pride. This is especially relevant, especially in modern day science, as it leads to us completely accepting foreign culture, in replacing the national heritage of Malaysia as a whole. We tell you that foreign industries become more dominant with the collapse in the creative sector, which is why it's so important in today's side of the house. Now, this is also much more important because young Malaysians now lack patriotism. They lack hope in the nation. They already have distrust in the future, and we need something to increase that national spirit. Now, moving on to the alternative and the next segment of our argument under the headline of how, by rediverting funds towards the creative industry, you can still help the economy and also bring national youth at the same time. The context behind this is the fact that the moment you provide more support towards these creative industries, to these creative sectors, they will have a platform, they will have the resources to actually begin expanding those networks, not just on the domestic scale, but also abroad. You see that these creative sectors, like artists or television networks, can start expanding towards other Asian countries if given enough funding. If they have the resources to continue developing, we tell you that this is important because since these industries and funding start to flourish, that they can start bringing profits from abroad, that their operations are finally expanded, it is also the moment where they can actually start expanding the industry, which can lead to things like employing more people in the creative sector. It can lead to economic prosperity when you do these kind of policies, when you actually focus on something which is more important. And we tell you that the development of culture is going to occur at the same time. This is the second layer of the argument. We tell you that the fact that we have more funding, the fact that this creative sector is flourishing, is also the moment that it develops Malaysian culture. For example, when you have enough facilities, when you trainers, you have the right stadiums to host events like football. It can help actually bring more foreign investment. It can help people become more confident in the national team. You see that people are going to become much more interested in their culture as a whole. And we expect them to be much more united. As we can see the development of struggling artists, they actually receive the aid that they need. They can continue these old traditional arts, which is something we should be very important because it's part of Malaysian culture as a whole. And for the final conclusion, sure, while the academic field is very important, we still also have to focus on other aspects like our own national identity. And with that, please start with opening opposition. Thank you.
Now, inviting the Deputy Prime Minister.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The leader of opposition kept saying regarding how, by we're focusing on academic, will make the creative sector fall and collapse. And to this, I said that that is false. And why? So I will explain later in my rebuttal. But firstly, what I'm going to say, I will be moving on to my rebuttal and second to my argument. So moving on to my rebuttal, the leader of opposition says that the main reasons to this problem of the downstream in academic is because of lack of motivation. And yes, we believe that is true, and we think that that is the problem that we are actually facing today. But that's why the motion says Malaysia should focus on policies. Policies are a role for a student, for in this scenario, a teacher or a school to actually make a policies to make sure the students will be more motivated to actually score on their exam, or for college students to actually force them to actually be focusing on their academic problem, because we believe that we should pursue policies that encourage the advancement of academic, because it's a long-term benefits towards our country, and it could affect many kind of people. For example, the government, the students, the economy, and such more. And the second rebuttal is, he says that why it's bad to focus on academic only, because it will make the creative sector collapse. For example, the television shows from Malaysia and the football team in Malaysia and such so. And I wanted to ask something to the all government team. What is more important, to help our country be more developed, or to actually to have our own national identity? Because without, how can we make our own national identity if we don't have the things to show it, if we don't have any achievement to do it, if we don't have anything developed to show to the world? What happened is, but if we look at the status quo, for example, in a lot of the Malaysia's television show are almost bankrupt. And another example is what happened to the footballer in Malaysia. They barely get any profits, and it just shows how they fail to focus on the creative sector. And I think it's time for us to actually focus on our academic, because I think it will impose much more changes that I will later explain in my argument. So, moving on to my argument, title, why the advancement of academics is needed. Now, thank you. Because academics are one of the factors of building a developed country. Why is it true? Because with a world where academic is not prioritized as what the opposition wants, it could lead to a problem in our economy. For example, a business fall down because they fail to plan on their expenses. One company that I would like to mention is Sakura Energy. What is Sakura Energy? They are an oil and gas company that used to be number one in the Malaysia. Used to be the number one company that gives a lot of profit. And what happens to them now? They lose almost 80% of their profit. It's because of the CEO making bad choices. When the gas prices goes down, what happens is they bought a lot of expenses hoping that it will go up. And what happens is they fail, and it just shows how it is important for us to actually learn, to actually have knowledge regarding this kind of stuff. And because of it, it shows many kinds of negative impacts to our world. For example, in economy, the oil and gas price went high and it's getting more expensive. And what will happen to the business? The business will be fall down and lost a lot of money. And this just shows how important we need to focus on academics rather than making what they so what they so-called national identity. Because by having a business falling down, this shows how bad of a country how bad our country is inside of academic terms. And no thank you. What happened to the environment and the society, their unsatisfaction with the customers, with the people of the country, and there will be a lot of people that cannot afford to do so. And because of that, the economy will go down, and what will happen to our country? We will have less money to afford for the people. For example, what my prime minister saying for the football team, they cannot give much support to them because they don't have enough money in the first place because of the economic issues. So this shows how economic issues is more important than what is so-called scientists, for example, like what is mentioned by the opposition. So this process that how important this shows how important economy is to develop our country because a successor like software engineer, this shows how it affects the current world, and what happens now is also affecting the creative sector of this country. So another thing I want to point out is regarding the creative sector, I don't think it will necessarily fall down. This is my it's my question to the side of opposition. Do you think just by we're prioritizing an economic will make the creative sector actually fall down? Because I think it can be something that decided may not they may prioritize, but I don't think it will lead to them being barely improving in their creative sector itself. So this shows how important economy is more than the creative sector or more than other things. And this is why we as the as for the opening government things we should wait because we give a proper explanation, proper elaboration to us why we should win this debate and why economy is much more important in the first place, and that's why we made that opposition should not win this debate. That's all my speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Now, and the opening bed, I'd like to invite the Deputy Leader of start my speech. So it seems like there's been a huge misunderstanding inside government. They seem to think that we are trying to allocate all money into cultural building and leaving nothing else for education. So we tell us that's not true. Especially how all the case setups went out when my leader of opposition present this case. We tell you that we are just going to focus more on cultural building. It's not that we're totally going to cut out all allocations of money from education and bring it to cultural building. No, that's wrong. What we're trying to tell you is that in status quo, Malaysia we just need more development, right? Because Malaysia is a third world country. We need that. We need our own source to generate income and so on. A few rebuttals towards side government. Firstly, you cannot motivate students through money. Saying that we need all this. They're saying that we need all this money to. That's exactly the problem. We need all this money to motivate these students to study harder. But we tell them that's not true. Like absolutely not true. I've never heard a single person who say, right, I'll give you 500 ringgit if you got straight A's in the exam and stuff. And second, when Deputy Prime Minister asked us the question, will the economy will fall down if we focus on education? We tell you, no. Obviously, our economy is not that fragile. We just need we just need more sources to generate income because in status quo, we're relying a lot on external sources, on a lot of export materials like China or steam drinks or tea like McDonald's or also. And And we tell you that this is like somewhat a shame for us to rely and don't have our own source to generate income. Next, when Prime Minister talks about money towards education will actually bring more long-term benefits. But we tell you that that's sure it is true, okay, but it's just not guaranteed because from what I see, students study, get PhD, and then I don't know, get married, live a normal life, so on. And you can look at a few examples people who don't come from great backgrounds, people who don't come, for example, like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they don't even have PhDs but still become successful. They have all those companies that they created, so on, so on. Right? We're going to my argument. First, my only argument here, culture building will maintain our national status. Why is this true?
Everyone,
Sure.
are you saying that people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk doesn't get an education at all in the Netherlands?
No, I'm saying that not that these, I don't know if you've done the research or not, but these people come from hard backgrounds. People who come from, I don't know, they come like us. They don't have the government fully supporting them. And that's an example. What I'm not saying that all students have to be like they have to go live on the streets and stuff. No, it's just that in this motion, in this debate, we're just allocating more money to culture. Okay, moving on to arguments. This will maintain national status. Why is this true? Because in Malaysia, we have a variety of ethnics, which means we have a variety of culture, which also means we get high demands for adjustments. We have things, we have people demanding I don't know, temples, mosques, and I don't know, all other things related to their own culture. Right? Why is this important? Because this is what makes Malaysia unique. Right? It's all this variety or diversity is what attracts attention, and this is what brings people, foreigners, to Malaysia to find jobs or to go on vacations and stuff. Second layer is because we don't have our own source to generate money. So Malaysia, like, we have a lot of cultures, right? But these cultures are just things that don't stand out, and this makes these ethnics like have face hardships. But when they have these cultural building things, we provide revenue for these people. We provide material for these things for these people to carry out business and so on. And this links to my impact. My impact, when we have status, we maintain political status. Why is this true? Because sports events or musical competitions, right, that we want to build so much, serve as a platform. As a platform where people evaluate our nation, right? For example, the Paris Olympics, where a lot of people, a lot of countries around the globe come to Paris and compete in each other. At the same time, political exchange happens there, right? Paris is judged by other countries, and some news is brought to BBC I don't know, it became some sort of a culture, some sort of political matter in that. I think there was this news where Paris was, where in BBC, Paris was wrote as their pools were so bad and under-maintained. So that is why one of the reasons why we need cultural building is to maintain this infrastructure that we have and to continue building this infrastructure, developing this infrastructure that we have. So just a bit of weighing. So one slash here. The question is, who helps Malaysia develop? In Dove, in fact, argues that education, we allocate money and we sell that. That's not, there's no, not a fixed guarantee. There's not even a guarantee that people come and pay back the country. But on our side, we tell you that we have we help our nation rise in economy because we get an income. Second, we strengthen national unity. And third, we maintain or increase political status. All those reasons, please vote for opening opposition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jabo. Now we can be closing our session today. I'd like to invite member of government. Just as a precaution, make sure that the life of your schools to the check.
May I ask a question? What time did you get something in words? 7:15.
So just down after 7, usually we already take lunch. Depends on 7 to 7:30. But I would recommend after time is up to not waste the time. Try to let people know. But try not to extend too much because most likely judges will take more.
Alright, thank you.
Right.
How long was my speech?
I don't know.
Just 7:20.
Okay.
On that. Stop.
Members of the floor, how can we achieve IR5 goal that will attract foreign investment into our country? By having a good quality of education that can bring more people, or such as professors and architects and arts and engineers that can help this country to be more developed. But before I continue on, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all the members of the floor, especially the educators. Okay, so without further ado, let me move on to my debattles first. So for the first debate coming from the recent speaker, it's about how they say that culture building has national identity. And I'm standing here to prove to you that this is not mutually exclusive. Because why? On our side, we also have that. We can also help to build national identity in our side by also helping this academy. Why? Because, for example, if you have an individual from Malaysia who makes the Malaysian name proud in global level. For example, we have the 3 guys in NASA who joined a NASA project to send an astronaut to space, and this went viral, and this helps our country to get a national identity by those who have contributed to a global project. So this happens because of us having a quality education, and thus we need more of this to be held in Malaysia. So in order for us to have to bring more of this kind of people who can help to bring the national identity. It's not only on their side that have this national identity building, but in our side, we also have that. And also, the next one, I'm going to rebut, is how they said that the music industry, the sport industry, and the arts industry is really underfunded. But we understand this actually happens, but you need to understand and recognize as well, this sports industry, this arts industry, and also music industry, they have many sponsors of any company who is willing to give funds for them. But if you look to academics, it is only relying on the government only to give them funded and to give them support. But this sports and music and arts industry, they can actually improve their performance in order for them to gain more investors and to gain more sponsors for their club to improve. For example, we have the sports clubs such as the badminton. We have the Yonex who actually sponsors them, give them the shoes, give them the facilities, give them all the equipment. But if it's academics, there is nobody else that we can rely on except the government who will give us the funds. And also, I'm sorry, I won't extend my speech. I have many things to talk. I'm so sorry. And also, the improved funds, this sector can actually just improve their own performance. But if you were to say that the government doesn't actually give enough funds for them to improve their own performance, we actually had. Because why? There are many small facilities that already existed in Malaysia, especially in Kuala Lumpur. For example, you have the Kuala Lumpur Sports City, if you were to say in the context of sport. Because why? In this KLSC, the Kuala Lumpur Sports City, you have aquatic. You can swim, you can do many stuff in there. You have football, you have badminton, you have squash, and also you have hockey. All of these facilities have already been provided by the government. The only thing left is for us and for the people who is pursuing these industries to improve their own performance and thus help their own clubs and their own individual sector. And also, I'm not saying this as we are neglecting the culture building industry or the cultural industry itself. We are still giving you the money as well. We are not only allocating the money to the academics only. But the thing is that we need to focus more on the academics because we have many points lacking here. So what are the points? Let me explain to you. So the thing is, in Malaysia, wait. In Malaysia, Malaysia is in this stethoscope. Malaysia is really behind on academics because of our syllabus and also the mental age of our children is not enough and it's not reaching the standard of the normal children should be. So what happened here is that our country, Malaysia, is facing a facing a crisis of the academics that are not reaching the normal standard. So what happened here is that what is the first problem is in Malaysia, it lacks the governmental support kindergarten. Why is this a big problem? Because if we lacking in kindergarten, these children doesn't have a place to gain an education support. Because why? We can see many kindergarten in our neighborhood and such, but this kindergarten is private. You have to pay a lot of money for you to send your kids to this kindergarten. And what happened here is that normally parents, they are still in the early stage of their own marriage, so they don't have the money to actually allocate too much on this kindergarten that they can send their kids to their kindergarten. So what is needed today in Malaysia is we need more money for us to build more governmental support kindergarten, which is like quantity nowadays, so that we can help parents who doesn't have enough money to send their 4 to 6-year-old kids to kindergarten. So what is the impact if we don't have this kindergarten, and which is like quantity? Because first, the parents will have burdened themselves to actually bring their kids to work, which actually impacts their own quality of workforce. And if not that, they can actually send it to their nanny for babysitter. But the thing is that here they don't actually receive their education. So what happened is these children, their mental age will be far more behind than the average mental age that we should achieve in Malaysia. So that is one. And the other thing is that the second argument that I'm going to bring is how, just like what the academics in this portion have been defined by the opening, it is said that this academic is school. So why not? So when we are focusing, and not on the academic as well, when we are focusing in this school, we are actually also focusing on this cultural board and in this culture building policies too. Because why? There are many schools that is provided by the government who help cultural building by having sports school, art school, and music schools. So when this happens, you can actually develop and have more professional athletes, musicians, and also artists that can be born in the future. So when this happens, and when these graduates actually pursue their career, and thus they can improve the performance of the nowadays sports center, art center in the future. So what happened is that when we also focus in the academic sector, it is not on no sector is actually being undermined. It's just not directly being helped, and it's just indirectly being considered. Why? They actually have a really long run impact by them having a more better future next generation of their own sector. So I believe that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Abang Government. Now inviting the member of opposition.
Starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel. A prosperous and good kingdom is not a kingdom that sends warriors outside to war and conquer, but also one that takes care of the people on the ground. This is what's important from side of opposition itself. Side of opposition makes sure that both people on the ground and people that are going to make sure that Malaysia's name will get better reputation is only achievable on side of opposition. Side government tries to argue with you that they're going to make sure that these students who keep pursuing their academic career, who keep learning, are able to make Malaysia proud. They're able to make a name for Malaysia, while they keep ignoring people on the ground. They try to say that these kids will get good academics while ignoring the culture building that happens in Malaysia. Understand that one of the most important things about the culture building is that it creates job opportunities for people on the ground. Now, going on, a few rebuttals before I start with my arguments, going from side opening gov and closing gov. First, PM, the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, and Member of Government, all three, have already said that these culture building areas have been getting enough funding as of status quo. And however, understand that status quo is actually the opposite of status quo. And a prime example here is the Malaysian Football League, where the government completely ditched funding on it, forcing these states to pay for the players themselves. And since these states don't have the funds allocated to these players, they end up not paying these players and end up taking academy players, meaning that their performance are most likely very, very terrible. What happens then? What happens then is that they're not able to perform at their top performance, meaning that it's going to be a very bad spectacle for even like people in the local ground to watch. Meaning that there won't be patriotism happening in the first place, since as a Malaysian, you'll be disappointed to see how terrible your own team is playing. Hence, not only that, your reputation as a government itself has fallen in the first place. Second of all, they try to say that these academies, that your academic results will be able to help you like further get better jobs in the future, comparing a professor to a football player. However, understand, we're not talking about like individual achievements. Sure, they try to say that the students can go outside and make Malaysia proud, right? By bringing their name, by bearing the flag behind on their back. Understand that if Malaysia is burning on the ground, if what's happening in Malaysia is so terrible to the point that where culture doesn't exist at all, what's the point of these Malaysians who've gone like abroad to London, to United States to study? Sure, they might be smart, sure, they're successful, but they won't think back on Malaysia in the first place because the form of culture doesn't even exist there in the first place. Now going on, they try to tell you that it helps with the development and it helps with like you trying to get education. However, one thing that Deputy Prime Minister contradicted was in his earlier claims, where he states that the culture building scenario in itself is already something that's gone bad, something where like most movie producers or like these companies go bankrupt. And all of a sudden, at the end of his speech, he tries to claim that these things can stand up on their own. I think it proves to us that we really need these fundings in the first place, because the fundings aren't even that much to begin with. Before I go on, sure.
Are you saying that academics can't help anything on our country about culture building and national identity?
I'm not saying that just because we're not giving like the academic like scene money, it doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to like further ourselves as a country in the first place. Sure, the students will, and in a sense, one of them will be able to like make our country proud. But without culture on the ground, without the culture to teach these children patriotism and why their country is important, this thing won't happen in the first place. Even if these children go outside to learn in London, they become like a CEO, like maybe like Elon Musk, they won't really talk about their country because they're not given the importance of their country in the first place. The function of these movies, the function of your local artists, your sports team, is to teach you the meaning of patriotism. That's to say, if Malaysia performs terribly in the SEA Games, will you really recognize yourself as a Malaysian? Malaysia has failed in its own home ground. I wouldn't consider myself as a Malaysian at that point. Now, understand that due to the sole reason that these sports have failed, these local industries in itself slowly failing, it is in a sense where Malaysians stop to show the patriotism towards each other. Another importance of patriotism here. Let's take another country for example. Let's take South Africa. A main example here is that there was apartheid up to a point where these two races were divided. The only thing that brought them back together is sports, rugby. The only reason that South Africa isn't a country divided into only two parts, featuring black people and white people separated, is because of sports bringing them together. Understand, that's only a country with two races. Malaysia is a country with multiple races. And I feel like it's very evident that that football is one of the things that unite us together. No matter how much people hate each other, they still are able to agree that Harimau Malaya is the best football team. So that's to say, if you're not able to give these fundings to these players, not only to these players, due to the fact that these players don't have the fundings, they're not able to perform properly, then these Malaysians won't even be supporting for Harimau Malaya in the first place, and will most probably break the sense of patriotism that exists between Malaysians in the first place. So what do you tell you on self-confidence? Sure, proceed.
So how do you prove that academics can't bring people together? Because we have students that go to other countries.
Yeah, but not all students go to other countries, and two, people are still focused on like studying. You can unite the students, but what about the people on the ground? The people on the ground who don't go outside of countries to study in the first place, how are you going to unite them? By sports. Now, what will your side opposition prove to you today? Side opposition proves to you that these cultures are something that's very important for a country to stand up on its own in itself in the first place. Sure, side government tries to argue how academics is very important, but they don't really touch about how the people on the ground are able to succeed without with these academics happening because only a selective few will go. One more thing that I'm talking last minute, but like a member of government tries to say that there's not enough fundings given by the government towards us, towards the students. Understand that there have been multiple companies giving out sponsorships compared way more than the government gives sponsorships to the students in the first place, like Sunway, Petronas, so on. This happens way more compared to the people towards the culture building scenario in the first place. And with that, let me be further to propose.
Thank you, member of opposition, representing the government.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening. I wish to all the members of the floor. So first things first, let's touch up on some of the arguments. So first things, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to talk about today. First, I'm going to be coming up on the government's case. Second, I will be giving rebuttals on the problematic points coming from the opposition side. Next, I will be concluding which side is the one that wins today. So first things first, let's talk more about how focusing more on policies that are academic related can further develop our country. So I completely agree with the point coming from the government side that Malaysia is a third world country and we rely too much on foreign sources of technology and investments for our local firms. We believe that this is not something that a developed nation should rely on too much, because if we want to become a developed country, we need to be self-sufficient. So the way we can achieve this self-sufficiency is by increasing policies towards academics. Why do we believe so? Because in the basic of all of this technological research and STEM-related fields, that is the most important thing that a developed nation should be focusing on, because of we can see that the industrial revolution and the climate change crisis, which we need more technology on. So increasing funding towards schools and budgets towards schools can make classrooms more interactive and more conducive for students, which is on par with 21st learning that pursues modern day industries. So the status quo is that technology is not present enough in Malaysian public schools, which makes students unincentivized to learn to go further in education. This can lead Malaysia, a developed nation, to over-dependent, over-rely on foreign sources of technology and research. Before that, yes?
Okay, so far, we've told you that you tried to tell us regarding why it's so important to give money to academics. But Malaysia has been pouring money to academics for like 50 years now, since 1970s, during the PB. But still, Malaysia hasn't become a first world country. Please explain.
That's why we need to continue to invest in our academic-related industries, continuing to allow cultural advancement to still have the same amount of focus on their policies is completely neglecting our not enough advanced education system right now. So even I want to add another thing: the phenomena of brain drain can happen within our countries. So what is brain drain? It's a crisis that Malaysia is especially experiencing, where students, they go to foreign countries and other countries because they see that the government there is more focused on academics than their own government. Meaning that the students, they flee to America and they flee to Japan to pursue their regions and diplomas there. And what this leads to more often than not is that they end up staying in those countries, meaning that these high quality students who have high quality education, they are staying in the other countries because they only pursue their education there. Why? Because the education in Malaysia is not advanced enough. This crisis is exactly what we are trying to avoid when we are allocating more focus towards academics. So, second, so moving on, I would like to rebut all of the points coming from the opposition side. So first, about how ignoring culture development can lead to the collapse of a culture. So first, we are not ignoring cultural development. But cultural development in Malaysia, we say it's completely fine. Not much focus or not much policy needed building. All focus is needed for our rich culture to thrive. Because culture is not reliant on the schools or formal education teaching it that much. It's more reliant towards the people themselves, the people that the talent, innate talent that they have, is not something that the school can really teach to them. So second, so another point from the opening of the opposition is that they said that sports and culture and basically culture in Malaysia can bring more economic prosperity due to us making international headlines, and that can attract foreign investments. Well, we say this is completely unrealistic to assume that based on cultural development alone, we can increase our visibility on global stage. Have our teams or seniors or actors actually made international headlines enough for us to attract foreign investments? No. We tell you what actually has attracted foreign investment is, number one, our halal industries, which our Malaysia has become a pioneer of. And second, we have a lot of advancements in sustainable technology, which is important for the climate crisis right now. And what do these industries stem from? They stem from academic achievements and qualification of the students themselves. So we tell you that relying on cultural careers to bring investment is completely unreliable and unstable. On the other hand, if we focus on academic building, we can better access facilities that can help our students stay within Malaysia and not rely on foreign education that much. And you know what? I'll help you out. If when we get more foreign investment and we have more developments in our multiple industries and we will have more money because of that, then we can help develop Malaysia not only on the academically but also culturally. And we have more money from that, and we have more money because of the industries, and therefore we can get more, and therefore the cultural investment can get more long-term benefits. So another rebuttal is towards how culture building can provide jobs to people on the ground. So the way that the closing has visualized these jobs on the ground is that if someone is not a professor or a doctor, they are instead a singer or an actor. No, we tell you that academics can also help people on the ground. They can become teachers at primary schools. They can become doctors at clinics. They do not necessarily have to go to international level stage to provide themselves a job. So this is actually something, and please note that a very small minority of Malaysians are actually athletes and singers and musicians. It's something that they have completely over-exaggerated, and that's all. So, for my conclusion, let me ask you a question. If you could only live in a world of professors or doctors, or rather worlds of actors, which would you rather live in? Look no further than this question to determine the winner of the debate.
Thank you. And now to end the debate, I'd like to invite the opposition debate. Here.
What you want to do? Welcome. Okay. Speech starts in 3. Okay. In the government, in the opposition side today, we are going to talk about something that they've not talked about before, and this is something that my side has already said, which is basically the importance of the stakeholders in today's debate. What my side has already said here is regarding the footballers and no matter how many times the government side here has came up, they keep talking about how footballers are somehow overfunded or have enough funds. What my government has said is MFL is not funded. It is not funded by the government, and the government wants them to be funded by these private companies, but they're not. They're not getting funded, which is why the Kedah team and the Kelantan team is not paying their players. They're not paying the players to the point that academy players are not playing for them and causing them to lose against subpar teams such as KL 6-0. This is showing that it is not a question of whether or not you should or should not pay or should not add more money towards these non-academic industries. This is a must. This is an issue of whether or not these people get their money and we're able to feed their kids or not. Right now the second thing is regarding the fact that that is now going on to my rebuttals. They talk about how they completely ignore the fact that the academic sector is actually more stable than the non-academic industries. Like I have just said, a lot of the industries in academics, even if the government isn't giving enough, and you think to me that the government isn't giving enough, for example, scholarships and so on, there are many other private companies that are willing to do so, right? Such as Petronas, such as like even overseas companies are giving them these sponsorships. These industries are somewhat stable. People are not dying in their side. People are not getting paid in their side. In the non-academic side, not only people are getting paid, but they're not having a platform to do these non-academic industries in the first place. This is ridiculous, and it's completely undermining. What Malaysia has been working for in the non-academic industries in the first place, right? Now, secondly, they talked about how if you give better academics if you have better academics in Malaysia, they will somehow go become a lawyer, they will become a professor and so on, and they will improve. And they will improve somewhat. But keep in mind, this is a point that has been given from my side here today, which is that being a footballer or being a singer or being an actor is a job. It is not something you do for fun. It can be a job and you can have money for it. Right. An example for this is how the Italian football team has a lot of people with good academics. They have diplomas and so on. But they still go to football and they still play football and get their money from football, working as a footballer. Right. So for you to cut off the money that is already very little, not enough for them to even support the football team, is basically saying that not only are you cutting off this job, cutting off this sector, cutting off these academic industries from getting enough money for them to get paid, but also the fact that you are cutting off people who are already smart, has went through your education system that you have so-called improved for the past 50 years, and basically not giving them a space to work. Yes.
What do you think about the lack of quantity of government support in the garden? Can you compare where?
Okay, so first of all, I was about to go into that on my rebuttals, but from where did you get the lack of kindergarten support? No, not that. Where did you get the part where they have low mental age? From what context? From where did you compare that to? Because if you want to compare kindergarten age or mental age or whatnot, America is way worse than Malaysia, right? This comparison does not work, and I will bite the bullet here for the kindergarten funding. Of course, Malaysia does not have enough for kindergarten, but the mental age issue is not really relevant because even in America, their mental age is way worse than Malaysia, and their academics is way worse than Malaysia. But why do they succeed more as opposed to us? Even though we've been funding it for a very long time, Now, moving on, you are telling me that you are basically saying that putting money in the non-academic industries does not help the economy. Now, keep in mind, this is what my member has said before. This is not exactly the case. Even if you produce Einstein of Malaysia and he leaves the country, If he doesn't come back to produce a new formula, to produce a new product, to improve the infrastructure, how is the country even going to improve in the first place? And this is something that you have not rebutted. It's not something that you've disproven from my side, which is that people do not come back if they believe that Malaysia is running down and in flames, right? If they went to the other countries and they heard about the fact that Kedah isn't paying their players, if Kelantan isn't paying their players, what is the image in Malaysia in that case, right? It will be it will ruin not only it will ruin the image of Malaysia, it will destroy their patriotism because again, as my partner has said, it is you are basically ruining the one thing that the one very important part of Malaysia, which is football, which is, for example, popular singer Nur Fiza, she who has been pulling people together. And even if you want to talk about how people went to NASA, right? I don't think rural people really care about NASA. People watch football from their very little. Little kids do not know what NASA is, but they do know what sports is. What is little kids will not be little kids from different races will come together to watch football, but they will not come together because some random guy from Selangor suddenly went to NASA. Right? Sure.
So earlier you said that people in cultural building are just don't do it for fun, but because it's a job. So why do they think they would choose cultural building sectors rather than earlier you said that people in cultural building can just don't do it for fun, but because it's a job. So why do you think they choose cultural building sectors rather than the economic sector?
Academic sectors. It is because for a lot of these building sectors, these not cultural building sectors, we are talking about non-academic industry, by the way. It doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, they got their academics, went over their academics, so they're smart enough to get another job, but they're interested in these hobbies, they're interested in these jobs. You are depriving Malaysians of achieving their dream jobs by not providing to them with enough money to basically give them. A man from the man from Italy could get a job as a doctor, but he wishes to work. It wishes to work for the country. He wishes to work to put his country up, raise his countries up in football, and that's a good thing for their country because now their country is more patriotic. Their country has more embodiment of nationalism as opposed to Malaysia, who has completely nothing. Because now you are saying that because you're saying these things, right? Now, moving on. Now I will go on to the best case and worst case scenario for my side and also your side here today. Now, even if for your best case scenario, the economy improves to the point that everything has worked out, let me tell you that even in our worst case, and the academic jobs especially, at least these people have a life, they have their own job, and they could and Malaysia could keep continuing to have the industries in the first place. And with that, please support opposition side for this.
Thank you, opposition whip. I think that must be the end of the campaign. Sit down. Thank you very much for your time. Please give yourself a big round of applause. As this is a silent round, I wouldn't be giving you the credit or the OA. However, I will still be here tomorrow, so just in case, regardless whether you're advancing to wrestling semis or quarters, regardless if you're advancing or not, you can always just approach me at the edge bench in front for any way afterwards. Alright, so I think that's all. I don't think we need to reconvene back in the main hall, but just in case, check if you're seated or not. I think that marks today's date, and thank you very much, and hope to see you guys tomorrow.
You give the best in this case. That's the money is in this case. Yeah. That's good. Right here, okay. Then. Wait, what's it? Why? Then we. Yes, the balance. Huh? Ada terprak.